Hi friends and welcome back to the mat. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I am working on a beautiful Lariat, spring-inspired Lariat necklace. I am utilizing a ton of really beautiful beads from my Spring in Central Park Sparkle Bay collection from May. I also want to mention before we jump in, I am doing my challenges that I draw during our Sparkle Bay premieres, and I had drawn for May, make a necklace. So I chose a Lariat, and then there was another challenge card, which is use 5 different types of beads in your design, and then of course an ombre or some color blocking. So I am doing 2 out of 3. I already actually did this one in that cute little bracelet where I braided the soft flex wire. So I have met my challenge for the month. Very proud of that. And a lariat is just such a beautiful necklace, right? Meant to be worn like a scarf. So many endless ways we can make them really personalize to our style. And I'm doing this particular lariat very, very long, and I'm finishing it off a little bit different than I've done before. So what I've done here on one side is I'm doing a beaded loop with my 11 O's and the glass leaf flowers here. I am utilizing some 6mm jump rings. Notice the rainbow color there. I have these in this beautiful rainbow color, and I thought that that looks so sweet with all the beautiful colors in this lariat. It's just a burst of spring and happiness in this lariat. So what I opted to do was that on one end, I think I might take one more leaf and add one more leaf here. I'm not quite sure. And I did not do any particular pattern, friends, but I will pull up and show you what I have done. I've just done basically what I call a smorgasbord. I've got the bow ties, and there's some of those electroplate butterfly beads, bunch of the frosted, there's some of the check bell flowers, these beautiful glass flowers here, there's a bunch of fire polish. I literally think I used almost every single bead that was in this collection or close to it. I do also have some of the tiger skin, and I also have some of the cherry quartz in here as well. Here's some tiger skin. The barrels, it's so beautiful. And what I did do in between every single bead was I opted to go back and forth with my 11 O's between the Celine Custard, which is right there, and the Amethyst, which is right there. So these are the 2 color Tohos I'm using. And so I just thought that gave it a little bit of balance, but also kind of blended everything together by putting those Tohos in between every bead is every other color. And basically, what I've done, friends, in terms of measuring is I just put it around my neck and I beaded until I just loved it. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be so pretty. So this is going to be very convertible as well. And there you go. Just notice just the design is so like random and sporadic, but it just works. And it's just so beautiful. Now, this one little section right here, I did use, these are all little rondelles. These are like 3.5, 4mm. And that is probably going to go around the back of the neck. And I pulled that green mix there. There's a bunch of white and peach. That came from my previous bag, Sunlit Meadows, in April. But any beads you have, of course, will work for Lariat. So I did do that there, and then just randomly fed on the rest of these beautiful beads. So now I'm at a length where I really am happy. I'm really happy with this length. And so what I did here is notice that my beaded loop, I crimped it up on top instead of here. You could do it either way. I just decided to do it here because that using the magical crimper, that crimp ends up really blending into my design, and it almost just looks like a little seed bead, right? So that's what I decided to do there. So I am going to do the exact same thing on the other side now. So if you're not familiar, you're new to doing extensive beading projects, that's really all this is some beading and crimping and just getting a little fancy schmancy with the jump rings, but nothing too complicated. loop this side, I did even count of the two colors that I chose, and I didn't need that large of a loop, right? All I needed was to just get my jump rings on there. So I did not need a very big loop here. So I did not make very big of a loop. Now on this side, I'm gonna make just a tiny bit bigger of a loop, and I'm going to do a different pattern with the beaded loop to just give it some little bit of texture and a little bit of funsy movement. So then this way, this side will be able to in fact slide up and down. And there are just endless ways we can wear a lariat. So I'm going to go ahead and feed on those 11 O's. So I'm going to go with, I think, 2 of the custard and then 1 of the amethyst. And I don't want to, again, I don't want to make it too big, but I am going to make it just a little bit larger than the other side so that I can slide it up and down and use that as my slider. This beaded loop will be my slider. The largest beads I have here are 10 millimeter, but I don't need to slide it up all the way really, because you can also tie it, right? So I imagine if I slid it up, I wouldn't be sliding it past about right here, somewhere in here. So to like your beaded loops, you want them to slide effortlessly, but you don't want them to be too sloppy. It's a little tricky. Not that it's a techie thing, but it's just a little tricky sometimes to measure that beaded loop according. I have made many mistakes along the way, that is for sure, and had to redo many lariats because I made too big of a beaded loop. So that can happen. Absolutely, that can happen. So I would just say try to stay in scale. So in order for me to try to stay on scale here, what I'll do is after I feed on, right, a couple of my beads, I can see that I'm going to fold that over and I can see that that's obviously too small, right? So I'm going to go ahead and keep going. And then I will put this loop before I commit to crimping that in place. I will check to see how it moves along the lariat. You also do not really need to do a loop that will slide. You can just end, and I almost did that, friends. Some more inspiration for you. I almost ended this the same way on both sides. I was going to do just another beaded loop and a cascade of the leaves here. So you could do that too, because, you know, lariats are literally, you know, meant to be worn in absolutely endless ways. You could also, frankly, add a jump ring with a clasp. I could do that as well here if I wanted to. I could throw a lobster here, and then I could use that lobster to close that, and you could also make this a wrap. So endless ways to finish off your lariats. Okay, friends, so I am done feeding on my Tohos, and let me show you how I've determined what size loop I need for my beaded loop here with my 11 O's. So what I do is, you know, you just feed them on, right? And then you're gonna basically just hold that tight. You can use a bead stopper here too. And we're just gonna kind of turn it around, right? Like this. And then I will grab the other side of my lariat and I will put it through the loop. And what I want to do is make sure that anything that I want through here is going to go through here. So let me show you, let me get it together here. So these leaves go through, right? And then we've got that 10 millimeter, and that's my largest bead. Okay, and these are also like 8.5, 9. So notice that. So that's all. That's how you determine, right? But then I have this up here with the flower going this way. So I did want to make sure that I could pass that through, which I can. I can turn it to the side and get that past that. But I would not want that any bigger than that because it might be too sloppy. So if you can kind of tell the size of my loop there with this particular design with these size beads, these are all 8, 9, 10 millimeter at the largest. You can see, you know, kind of get a visual there, right? So we don't want it to be too sloppy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and put my bead stopper on the end that I'm going to crimp, and I will go ahead and now pull everything down. I like to put my necklaces in like a coil. I always say that, snake them up like a coil, right? And or coil them up like a snake, rather, reverse. And that goes ahead and gets rid of all the gaps. In this case, notice I didn't have much gap, so it's a little bit of wire here. But also we want to have movement, right? So these are all glass. We basically, any way you can, bunch them up and get them looking like this before you crimp, right? Because you want to have movement. So when you lay it out and wear it, none of your beads are going to rub and crack. So that is what I have. So again, notice at this closure, same on the other side, I have put a crimp and then my final bead, and then I started my beaded loop. So now I am going to take this tail wire and go around all those tohos there and back through that crystal and also through my crimp. And now I will get that through, and then we will pull that tail and get everything pulled together. And so there we go. And we want to make sure we're going to go ahead and pull it all down. So just keep pulling until everything comes together nicely, just like that. And make sure my wires are uncrossed and everything is nice and coiled up. So I know I have movement once I crimp. I'm going to use the magical crimper today. And so I'm going to go right over that crimp bead with my crimping plier. And again, I'm going to hold that to where that is not crossed and be very careful not to touch my beads. And the magical crimper will spread out your work a little bit, right? But if we see a little of my beading wire, I am fine with that because it's a beautiful soft flex. And by the way, I forgot to mention that, guys. I did use the soft flex 49 strand. Let me get that crimped. In one of my favorite colors, the bone. That's the medium. So that's the 49 strand, 0.019 inch. So a beautiful beading wire for a lariat. So it'll handle. And that is what that side of my beaded loop looks like right there. And so I have grabbed a flathead pen and a bead from my stash along with one of these beads here that is in my lariat, and this I think matches very, very well. This is a really pretty check tree of life rectangle, and I think it picks up well in the design. And so I think I'm going to end with that on this side. Now again, I could duplicate the leaves on the other side, which I might change my mind and do that, but let me play around with this a little and see. I think I like that. I think that's really pretty. So just have my beads on there. I will come in here with some chain nose and some round nose. And so we will put a bend in that wire there. And then I will just make about a medium loop there to fit over that beaded loop. And we'll wire wrap this. You could also do a simple loop. I'm going to go ahead and wire wrap this directly to that loop. And so before we finish that off, I'm going to pop this open. I'm going to slide my beaded loop on there, and then we'll close up the loop. And we'll hold that and wrap that up. Okay, and so there is my final dangle on this side. I hope you guys enjoyed today's beady inspiration. Let me show you what we have here. I have, in my measurements here, friends, this is about 38 inches. So it's about a 38-inch lariat. Just absolutely beautiful. So many beautiful ways to style this. And frankly, this really is spring inspired, but you could wear this colorway pretty much year round, I feel. So that is what that looks like. Let me get it like that. So that's my full pattern, the full lariat there. And again, I made that beaded loop, as you can tell, much larger. So if I want, we could tie it, right, friends? So we can tie a lariat, right? You can do lots of fun things. If I can remember how to do a simple tie your shoes, John. Jeez. There we go. So, you could absolutely tie your lariat. You also, what I like about something like this is we could go around the neck a couple of times here. I've made it long enough for that. So it could lay something like this, right? So you could have this more of like higher as like a choker and then have the rest of this, laying down. Or we can, of course, opt to put our beaded loop through the other side and slide that up and down. Let's get it on there. I'll show you guys. There we go. And so that's just perfect. And so then this can then, slide pretty much up and down the full length. But what I love is, if that's kind of like that, there's also, a little dangle there. So a beautiful convertible lariat spring necklace, very beginner friendly. I hope you guys enjoyed today's beauty inspiration, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep sparkling and be blessed.